Today, we keep track of the months by the calendar. Our months do not have a consistent number of days, some 30, some 31, and February having only 28, unless of course it's a leap year. However, many ancient civilizations relied on a lunar calendar where the start and the length of the month was determined by the phases of the moon. In addition to timekeeping, ancient cultures used the months for planting and harvesting and for cultural and religious practices. Their lives depended upon the best times to plant and to harvest. There are even some animals that have reproductive cycles linked to the phases of the moon. How do these phases occur? Why are they so regular? Where does the part of the moon go that is not visible? We'll learn about these next. Stay tuned. You're looking at an animation of the cycle of lunar phases. We often refer to this cycle of phases as a month. The lunar cycle, or cycle of phases, begins and ends with a new moon. The cycle takes approximately 29 days to complete. The cycle of phases is sometimes referred to as the synodic period of the moon. Phases are about geometry, not shadows. They occur because the moon orbits the Earth. As shown from above the Earth's north pole, the Earth rotates counterclockwise, and the moon orbits the Earth in the counterclockwise direction. The month is not the time it takes the moon to orbit the Earth. This is called the sidereal period and is approximately 27 days. Here we see the moon orbit the Earth as viewed from above. When we return to the same position again, we have completed the sidereal period. So why is there a difference between the two periods? It's because the Earth is moving in its orbit around the Sun. Because of this, the phases take about 2 extra days to reach full. Let's watch this video to get a better understanding of how this works. Here again we see the moon's orbit from above. The yellow dot is our reference starting point. The moon returns to this point in 27 days, or one sidereal period. If we view the Earth-Moon system as a whole, we see how much the Earth moves during the month. When we return to the same reference point, notice that the moon's phase is not the same. The moon has to go more than a full orbit to show the same phase again, a difference of about 2 days. Let's see how geometry of phases work. In this simulation, we'll have a sun, the flashlight, a moon globe, and the Earth, my computer with a webcam. And of course, me. Before we start, a quick note about the Earth-Moon-Sun system. We see the moon because half of it is always lit on the sun-facing side. Note that the Earth is always half illuminated too. Here we see the front half of the moon is illuminated. As seen from the Earth, as is depicted in the screen capture, the moon is in the first quarter phase. Note that in this simulation you can still faintly see the back half of the moon. The non-illuminated part is always there, we just may not be able to see it. We'll begin our simulation in the new moon configuration. As we walk in the counterclockwise direction, as seen from the Earth, we see that the illuminated part is growing. We refer to that as waxing. As we continue in the moon's orbit, trying to avoid shadows cast by my setup, we see the illuminated side growing larger as we go. We eventually reach the full moon phase, where our view of the moon is completely of the illuminated phase. We are about 14 days into the lunar cycle. As we continue in the moon's orbit, we're now in the waning phase, where the amount of the illuminated face visible to Earth is growing less. However, remember that always half of the moon is illuminated. We just can't see it because of the alignment. We eventually reach the third quarter phase, where again half of the moon is visible from the Earth. Our journey around the Earth brings us back to our starting phase, a new moon. Our cycle of phases took us approximately 29.5 days. Using the Earth, Moon, Sun geometry, we can determine what time is shown in the image of a full moon. Note the moon is directly overhead. In other words, it's on the meridian of the observer. It is midnight for this observer because the moon is directly overhead. Note that the sun here is antipodal. In other words, it is on the opposite side of the Earth. So the sun in this picture is below the horizon. Note the time on the clock is midnight. If the moon is overhead at midnight, it must have risen 6 hours prior, assuming a 12-hour day and night, at 6 p.m. It will also then set at 6 a.m. We can do this same exercise with a new moon. The new moon is over our observer's head, or on the meridian, at noon. Note the sun is also directly overhead. Therefore, the new moon rose at 6 a.m. and set at 6 p.m. along with the sun. It is important to point out that the new moon always rises with the sun, and the full moon, in contrast, always rises with sunset. And now for our last example. Our observer has the first quarter moon on his meridian. The terminator marks the transition between day and night on the Earth. Therefore, it is about 6 p.m. for the observer. The moon rose 6 hours prior, making a midnight rise. Similarly, it will set 6 hours later, or 12 p.m. Another note, this phase of the moon is called a first quarter, but clearly half of the moon is visible. So why is it called the first quarter? It's because this phase of the moon is a quarter of the way to the next new moon. Remember, from one new moon to the next is about 28 days. The first quarter moon, then, is about 7 days after new moon. Thus, it is a quarter of the way to the next new moon. So let's summarize everything that we've just talked about. We have the entire geometry of the Earth, Moon, Sun system in this one image. You can compare these views to those in the simulation that was shown earlier in the video. This image also includes the rise and set times that we just discussed. You may wish to pause the video and review this information before moving on. Just a couple of notes on terminology here. Note that the waxing moon means that the phase increases in the illuminated portion of the moon as it moves from a new moon towards a full moon. A waning moon, on the other hand, is when the illuminated portion of the moon that is visible from Earth is decreasing in size as it progresses towards the new moon phase. Finally, the gibbous moon. Gibbous is a moon that is more than half illuminated but less than fully lit. And this table is a final summary for those who prefer to not have everything in picture form. Here we see the phase, the name of the phase, and the approximate time when those phases rise and set. You may wish to pause the video at this point to review this slide.
Well, would you look at that?
Jerry, you gotta see this.
Seen it. Trust me, after 15 walks, gets a little old. Yeah, I really should be retired by now. Wish I invested when I had the chance. To the moon.
Stop
waiting? Start investing. E-Trade.